just a sad thing, unexpected, very painful. I wished it were me rather than Sophie or any child.
Today I asked her, I said, what's the latest? What do the doctors say? Is there any hope? As far as she knows, there's nothing new. Nothing can be done.
Time is precious. She's 11 months younger than I am. So I view that as I'm already on borrowed time. I think how precious time is what this helped reaffirm for me.
My name is Sophie. When I was growing up, I was a very active child, almost hyperactive. And growing up, I was like any other person. Nothing could ever happen to me. But it did. There's no treatment for this disease, and it's advancing quickly. In 1974, when I was 24, I met Eric. And years after we got married, we had a baby.
Here's Daddy. Are you waving at Daddy?
Adam.
Oh.
Hello.
I think I was one of the luckiest people in the world. Eric and I have a nice home in Marin County. When he isn't a problem, he has a fine job, good insurance. We traveled.
Life is good.
I didn't know what was in store for me. In February of 1996, I went to the doctor, and he diagnosed me with having Parkinson's disease. I was 45 and knew nothing about the disease. The doctor, for about a year and a half, kept prescribing levodopa. People with Parkinson's are relieved of symptoms when they take levodopa. I kept insisting that it wasn't helping me, but no one seemed to want to hear it. I said, I want to see a specialist.
I met Sophia when she came to the Institute to be seen for Parkinson's. At that time, she had already been diagnosed with Parkinson's for a few years and was on medication but wasn't doing as well as she would have liked. Okay, I want you to do it one more time. Walk a little further this time. It was determined at that point that she wasn't responding well to the medication, and that even having given her a fairly hefty dose, over the course of just a few hours that she had little or almost no improvement in the Parkinsonian symptoms.
Here we go.
I requested a couple of tests, including an MRI scan.
All right, let's have you sit down.
When Dr. Sophie received the results of my MRI, it showed that I had striatal nigral degeneration, which is a form of multiple system atrophy. I had never heard of this before, but now it's such a big part of my life and my family's. It's a lot worse than Parkinson's.
Okay, here's Eric. He's just returned from his dive. Sophie's here to greet him with a big woo-wee.
Home from the office.
Yeah.
Life was good. We did a lot of wonderful things together, and you know, we used to always joke that life was so good we were waiting for the truck to hit, and unfortunately it did.
Sophie's disabilities with MSA have become more and more severe over the course of her disease. Initially, when I was here, she was walking with a cane, and now she's in an electric wheelchair and sometimes has difficulty operating that because her responses are slow. And it's evolved to the point now where she is not able to walk on her own, not able to roll over in bed, sit up on her own. Major changes in her life.
Multiple system atrophy is a life-threatening, rapidly progressive neurodegenerative movement disorder of unknown cause, in which degeneration of brain cells leads to loss of movement, balance, and other assorted problems.
There are numerous disorders that affect the brain and affect different regions of the brain. One disorder that people know about or are very well aware of is something called Parkinson's disease. Within the group of Parkinson's disease, there's a group of disorders that have features like Parkinson's disease. These are often called Parkinson plus disorders, to signify that there's something about them that has elements of Parkinson's plus something else. One of these is MSA, multiple system atrophy.
Multiple system atrophy is a neurologic disorder in which several different systems of the brain undergo degeneration and have the disease process going on in them. Because there's several different systems that degenerate, you get problems with symptoms in several different areas. MSA includes Parkinsonism, but it's more than just Parkinson's disease. Parkinson's disease with the slowness of movement, muscle stiffness, trouble with your walking, with your balance, sometimes tremor. Most people with MSA have Parkinsonism, and so they often are misdiagnosed as having Parkinson's disease, especially early on in the disease. It's only later, once you start developing some of the other problems, that you start to see that, in fact, they actually have something different than just plain Parkinson's disease. In Parkinson's disease, there's a loss of the dopamine neurons in the brain, an area called the basal ganglia. It's led to the rational approach of trying to either replace the dopamine in the brain or to give drugs that mimic the action of dopamine, and that's been fairly successful in alleviating a lot of the symptoms of Parkinson's disease. For MSA, it's a much, much more difficult disease to treat, and that's because these other areas of the brain, when they degenerate, not only do you lose the dopamine neurons themselves, you lose their target, the neurons that the dopamine neurons stimulate. So replacing the dopamine doesn't help you as much. The people with the Parkinsonism from MSA don't respond as well to the medications used to treat normal Parkinson's disease. So if you start treating and you don't get a very good response, that's when you start really thinking much more. Maybe this is an atypical Parkinsonism, such as MSA, and then you start looking for these other problems that can come up as well. With your right foot, I want you to stamp on the floor.
Like this?
Yeah, loud. Left foot. Another area that you can see troubles in is degeneration of the part of the brain called the cerebellum, and that's involved in coordinating movement. Cerebellar problems tend to be expressed as mostly trouble with walking. People tend to have a very wide base to the gait, with their feet further apart, so that they aren't quite as prone to losing their balance. They tend to have also a jerkiness to their movements and loss of fine ability to extend their finger to a target. The third area that you can see troubles in is autonomic nervous system problems. The autonomic nervous system controls the automatic functions of the body.
The brain has a major role in regulating, through a part of the nervous system called the autonomic nervous system, our ability to swallow and chew, our ability to regulate our vocal cords, our ability to breathe, our ability to regulate our heart rate, our ability to regulate our blood pressure, to shunt blood from one organ to another, our ability to regulate the flow of urine and our bowel functions. These are all things that the brain does, and it does them at an automatic level, at a level that we're not aware of, and only begin to become aware of when something goes wrong with them.
Overall, the autonomic nervous system problems tend to be very difficult things to treat. It can be very debilitating for the patient. It can also be very stressful and frustrating for the patient. Any lightheadedness or anything? Okay. Constipation, are you having a lot of trouble with that?
Yes.
Okay. Did I ever give you the handout we have about constipation?
Yes.
How's the swallowing?
Worse.
More choking, more coughing. You don't cough in the back.
Have you had any falls since the last time you were here?
Close, but no.
Okay.
I mean, the problem, her speaking the way she's speaking now, is a normal expectation of what happens. I mean, this is
Not unusual,
Yeah.
For the most part. It looks like you are just a little bit worse, but it's relatively small change in terms of what I examine and measure and see. It's difficult also insofar as it slowly gets worse over time. The disease progresses little by little as time goes by. It's usually not a dramatic change one day to the next, but it can be substantial changes over the course of months to years. And as time goes by, things slowly, inexorably continue to get worse. Can you do that with your left hand, or not really? Kind of.
Kick yourself in the nose.
Okay, right foot. Stamp on the little platform there.
If you have MSA,
Okay, left foot.
and you tell people, we got no treatment for you, there's nothing you can do, that is not an approach. It's just not, and it doesn't work, and it makes people psychologically depressed, and depression and anxiety clearly do not help. And you remember that a person with MSA, while they are afflicted with disease, the whole family is afflicted with the disease. So, and the whole family is afflicted with disease. You can't have this one person just going off in the corner and saying, I'm going to die, because really a part of the family is dying.
The average life expectancy for people with MSA is 9.5 years from diagnosis. I may indeed make it for another 4 years.
And so what we hope to do is to understand the causes of multiple system atrophy, the processes that are going on in the brain. As you know, the cardinal features are the Parkinsonism, the slowness, the stiffness.
You have a disorder. No one wished it on you. This is not because of something you did bad. The devil didn't punish you. You have a disorder. That's reality.
Autonomic dysfunction, the problems with blood pressure, urinary control, etc.
Your family has this disorder. This disease is not your disease, it's everybody in your family's disease.
And then the cerebellar dysfunction, the problems with coordination, walking, using the hands.
This is a disease that affects everybody, and everybody has got to get together and say we're going to make things as good as possible for as long as we can be, because we don't know how long we have, and we're going to make everything as good as possible as we can.
Let's see what's here. This is my baby, Sophia. This is my baby doll. How we grow up, huh?
This hit me. The misfortune of Sophie. Someone told me that Sophie had Parkinson's, and then later I heard it was getting worse.
I remember when this first started, 1995, her toes started going numb and she couldn't wiggle them. And each year there's been a major decline in her walking and motion and also in her speech.
Her family has made an effort to keep in touch, which has been really good. Soph's mom's in her 80s and a really independent person, and I think it's really hard for her to accept that her daughter is not doing well.
It's so difficult because you just can't say, get up and walk. It just doesn't happen. She's so aware of what's going on around her. She's totally in her mind functional, but her body's not doing what she wants it to. And I feel helpless that I can't help her out with that.
There's probably a lot of inner conflict going on. How can I go on in this manner, but yet, how can I give up the people I love? And I think she wants as much time as she can have.
Sophie's the youngest, and when you see a family member ill, you also think of your own fragility and how you can't take life for granted, really.
This is the captain in his headquarters. This is where all the studying takes place, and then the navigational preparation for the vacations.
We had everything going for us. It's been a wonderful existence until we had to fight with this. It's just certainly changed the focus. I had all these goals for the next 40 years, and it's just a different future. I don't like to stop thinking about like it's going to happen, but it isn't going to happen realistically, not the way we'd like it.
Well, hello, darling.
Oh,
How are you today?
okay.
That's good.
Losing her ability to do things for herself must be hellacious, to have your body slowly lose functioning. You don't appreciate all those things that your body does for you until you can't do them anymore, and then they suddenly seem like the biggest, brightest things that you could possibly have.
Right over here. Try that.
Hello.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
I hear you very well.
I was kind of sad.
Losing her ability to speak is the most difficult because her mind is still incredibly sharp and she's still got all her sensibilities and not able to express them, and she's always been a pretty good talker.
So, Bob, what kind of hammer are you using there? You don't use that to smash video cameras, do you? My son kicked that ball. You mean this game isn't on the radio? We're right at him. Oh, look at that. Now the Royals have 90. Oop.
So, peek around the corner here. I can't see you. There you go. There you go.
Got the date on there?
Yeah. Don't talk anymore now.
What do you want me to do?
It's got to be a horrible thing for her to not be able to express herself. I find when she comes apart emotionally, I don't know how to cope with that. I think she looks into the future and sees that it is getting worse, and I think that's hard to cope with for both of us, actually. Just coping is tough enough, but it seems like giving up in a way to just cope with it. Personally, I feel almost like a failure myself because I can't find the right, I feel helpless. I can't do more to try to find an answer. It's just a total loss of control of the situation.
In your mind, you say there's no hope. But she does think of Adam. The son is young, but I think he grieves inside of him.
This is my son, Adam.
Hi.
He's 10 years old, he has braces, and he's almost as tall as I am.
Imagine being a 45-year-old mother of a 10-year-old son and riding your bikes and playing basketball together, and then one day you're diagnosed with something like this.
The toughest thing is losing your mother. When you grow up, you rely on two people that help take care of you and help get you up. Especially, usually the mother is the more nurturing person that helps with just the basic stuff just to keep you on track so you don't have to worry about as much in life. And it's completely gone. When I look at other families kids my age that had mothers, it's like, wow, you have someone else doing all this stuff for you, and it's just different for me. I'm just not used to that. I'm like, well, that seems so great. But she doesn't have to worry about it because I've come to accept it. Got to put it behind me and just keep going. Live my life the way it is. Because saying that I wish I had that isn't going to make anything better.
She can't take care of Adam anymore. She cannot be the mother she wants to be, and it hurts her a lot that she can't do that.
Sophie was one of the people that couldn't do enough for her son. I mean, she was just there for everything for Adam.
He's trying to cope in his own way, and I think he's having a hard time. Other than just being a teenager, I think he's definitely had some emotional changes that we can't quite grasp at this time. And it adds a lot of stress to the whole situation, that worrying, because we're worried about him as much as Soph, you know.
I just wish things were better for her. It's hard to sit there and stare at someone you know and love and just try to think back to how it used to be and how it, well, should be. But I'm starting to get used to it, and I mean, sometimes it's even harder to look back to when she was normal in video than the way it is now. Losing extra support sucks, but I miss just having her as a person and as her as a mother.
This is a short story I wrote called Summer Dreams. He wheeled her chair to the chase for a noontime nap. Lying there in silence, she thought about her life as if she were in its last chapter. She closed her heavy lids and drifted off to a deep slumber. She quickly arose from her chair, adjusted her string bikini before ascending the high dive. All eyes were on her, for she looked quite striking on that platform. She took 3 steps forward and performed a perfect dive. She felt as if she could fly. She had great power and complete control of her streamlined body. She swam through the pool with the grace of a sweet young dolphin. The touch of warm lips met hers. When she opened her eyes, her prince was there. He reached out his arms to her. Darling, your therapist is here. Time to exercise. He wheeled her away from her dreams. I remember I went through a long period of denial at first, and then reality struck.
When Sophie was first misdiagnosed with Parkinson's disease, she felt afraid, isolated, and alone. She would often wake up early in the morning and spend hours searching the internet to learn all she could about living with Parkinson's. Then she found out she had MSA. MSA is sometimes still referred to by one of its earlier names, Shy-Drager syndrome, or SDS. On the SDS MSA support group website, Sophie found comprehensive information about her disease. The only good news was that MSA does not appear to be inherited. One of Sophie's earliest fears was that her son might inherit the disease. Sophie learned that finding a treatment or a cure for MSA largely depends on basic Parkinson's disease research. Finding the cause of brain cell degeneration in Parkinson's disease is considered the first important step toward solving the more complex and severe movement disorders, such as MSA. Because MSA damages multiple systems in the brain and affects so many vital functions, prevention may prove to be the best cure. As one neuroscientist put it, what we need is to find the cause or causes and stop MSA before the degeneration progresses. At a related website, Sophie found the closest thing to a treatment she would ever find. Through this health group website, Sophie connected with hundreds of people around the world who also had MSA. The email list became Sophie's lifeline. She didn't feel so alone anymore. Here was a community of patients and caregivers who knew what she was going through and who would help her cope with the physical and emotional ordeals to come. Sophie's online family offered the only treatment there really was: friendship, support, and first-hand knowledge about the challenges she would face as her bodily functions steadily failed.
The important thing is to enjoy life at every moment. My mother's ability to redefine normal at every new stage of decline was why she coped so well, better than any of us.
It was very important to Liz she remained my wife first and foremost, not my patient. I tried through my love to prove this to her every day.
So many friends turned their backs and walked away. God bless the ones who stuck by us through it all.
My biggest challenge is accepting the inevitable. I can't beat the disease.
My tears for you are flowing, even though you are still here. The thought of you not being here is too much for me to bear. The heart hurts dear so much, it seems the broken pieces will never mend.
By no means does MSA have a monopoly on loss, but it seems the most common feature. What we gain as either sufferer or caregiver is to grieve each loss and move on. At the end of grief, there is acceptance. The more swiftly one gets there, the more living we can do.
Try not to think about the future, because it's only gonna get harder. Do what you can and deal with the worst problems. Try to laugh and smile. It's hard sometimes.
Sophie's online family helped her to understand where her disease was leading, and also gave her a sense of what she had to do now, because she saw what she wouldn't be able to do in the future. She started out by organizing a local support group meeting.
All my life I've been handy with my hands, so to speak. I have the knowledge, I know exactly what to do, but I can't do it. Why?
It's okay, dear. I used to do everything for someone dependent. Now I think nothing of passing will help. You have to, yes. That's something that's good that I learned while I'm in this disease. It's how nice people really are. Do you have any less for how to communicate other ways?
Mostly at this point, speech therapy would be of use. Some exercises for helping you with your speech, that would probably be the thing that's the most optimal treatment for that at this point.
As Sophie's voice became softer and more difficult to understand, many of her friends came by less often. Sophie wanted to keep her voice and her social life as long as she possibly could.
I taught voice for 35 years now, and these are standard acting exercises. Ha ha, ha ha, ha ha ha, What I was really looking for was more attack in her voice so that she would collect a little energy and then go with it as she spoke, getting more mobilization. Good. Middle part of the lesson I was working on stretching and using all the muscles of the face. With people with MSA, there's a kind of a blankness that comes over the face. Because the face is blank, people think that they don't have any feelings, that they don't care, that they're not engaged. And so they begin to treat them as though they're not really engaged, not really here. And so the person becomes more isolated. So what I'm working on with the clown faces is I want her to amplify the feelings in her face so that when she's got something to say, she'll feel like she's doing something as big as this, when in fact she'll just be almost coming up to normal communication. Fee.
Fee.
Fi. Then I was working on her articulation. This inability to control the tongue becomes quite problematic. Person has trouble eating and swallowing and pronouncing things. So the person has to do each thing one at a time. That includes words.
The quality of mercy is not strained. It droppeth as a gentle rain from heaven.
Upon the place beneath.
Upon the place beneath.
Very good.
Thank you.
You're
Mr.
welcome.
Higgins.
Sophie had now had MSA for 5 years. She had lost her independence and her privacy. But she could still type a little bit, and she knew the best hope for a cure in the future was to increase public awareness now.
I want to inform you of the disease I am suffering from and to ask you for your help.
Sophie is motivated to make people aware and to raise funds for the research. And it's incredible how you got a person here who's losing some of their mobility and somehow are finding a way to just write letter after letter, the ongoing letters pleading for help.
There's been some real positive feedback just from the letter writing campaign and the contributions. It could build up momentum, because once people know that there are more people out there in this situation, then there's more interest in research and in funding research. And that's what it's going to take. That's the key.
Enclosed, please find a copy of a letter explaining the disease I am suffering from, Multiple System Atrophy, MSA. Since you are a member of the Parkinson's Disease Task Force in Congress, we would like to speak with you regarding
The Parkinson's disease.
We would like to request a personal interview with you. Does that sound good? I think it's good, you know, because if she's on that task force.
We've been trying to make an effort pushing for funding for research, because really the only hope right now is further research, because right now there is no cure, there's no medication.
The National Institute of Health needs to be funded, more funding. With the numbers of people affected by neurological diseases, you have to be pretty blind not to know that we have to do a lot more.
I don't know if it will happen to you.
Yeah,
You never think it will happen to you.
No, that's right.
That's right. We have to put energy into making sure that Congress appropriates enough funding for all diseases. For people suffering from Alzheimer's or Parkinson's, or for those who have loved ones with these diseases. Because we've put a face on it and we're focusing on it, the Parkinson budget has gone up in NIH. And additional research that MSA needs, that has to be funded.
So where do we go from there?
You need your supporters to write to members of Congress and senators so that they recognize the need to increase funding for neurological diseases. And you're going to make sure that people hear and learn, know what MSA is, know how it differs from Parkinson's, and know how important it is that we find out what to do about it. We've got to find out the cause, along with the cure. Good luck.
There's definitely a movement started. People want to do something. The more people that can get together and the strength in numbers of fundraising drive or congressional help or whatever we can do, it holds out a little hope. It's going to happen. It just is it going to happen in time? And I have to think somewhat selfishly is I'm more concerned about us, not just the movement. I'm more concerned about us, and I'm not sure it's going to happen in time. Years.
Eric is Sophie's primary caregiver now. But in the beginning, nursing care was new to him, especially outside the home. Tonight they were going out to celebrate at their favorite restaurant, and he was a little nervous about taking her out on his own.
Just a little bit, not too much. Yeah, be careful. Drink too much, I'm going to have to take you to the bathroom.
How do you think I feel about it?
I'm sure you feel worse about it than I do. Allow me to take my date.
Oh yeah, you're a bride.
Shall we dance? No. Our anniversary dance. This is as good as we ever danced anyways. Right? We try to make everyday situations humorous. Helping her walk and helping her bathe, and you try to crack jokes and make light of the situation a little bit. And it is kind of bleak humor, but you got to still try to laugh. And when I can see her laugh, it's a great thing. Because I think in that moment that she's laughing, she's forgetting her problems.
You can't
see the numbers. The only way you can get any joy in life is to focus on short-term things. Because anytime you look at your life long-term, you see the struggle that's involved. And there's not much joy in that. The only way you can really do it is live day to day, try to find some joy and humor in the moment, and hopefully there is some joy and laughter. There has to be. So, anyways. I'm being distracted from the audience out here. Yeah.
Her humor helps make a situation light that might otherwise be heavy and puts people in a good mood.
Okay.
Happy anniversary.
With all her problems of being sick with MSA, she's always maintained her sense of humor, which is amazing at times that, she can find something to laugh about. Her and Eric definitely make each other laugh still, and I think other people, and I think that's really healing in its own way.
Boiling eggs for me is a skill, believe me. It's, I'm amazed every time they come out. You have to laugh at yourself sometimes. We're pulling out all the stops. And hopefully give her some entertainment when I'm doing cooking or cleaning, which is something I'm certainly not used to, and I've taken for granted all these years, and now it's time to struggle with that. Just the physical work of taking care of Sophie is quite time-consuming. And even sometimes to me to just put dinner on the table is an all-out struggle. All right. Hey, you gonna be home? Can I call you back in 10 minutes? Come in here. the priority is taking care of her and try to balance it with my job. I'm having a hard time just not getting sleep. She doesn't sleep well, and therefore I don't sleep well, and I find myself physically exhausted.
In terms of caregivers, one is a good caregiver. If the caregiver gives out, that's the greatest disaster to the person with the disorder. And caregivers give out because it's very hard and it really wears you down.
The caregivers need caregivers themselves. I mean, this is a burnout kind of job. To see someone chipped away inch by inch is just, it's very difficult. So many people get up and leave. Eric just became a bigger person and gives credit to Sophie for the things that she did all those years. When he said in the midst of her disease that he would marry her again that day, you know he wasn't just saying it for effect. You know, he really meant it. Doesn't mean he doesn't get angry and upset, but the love's there.
Anything? Anything what? Oh, you're ready to go. All right.
It's just a pretty full day of just the care, especially as her condition has gotten worse.
How you doing?
We've been lucky and have found a couple of people outside of Eric and I
I'm back.
who really enjoy Sophie and treat her like a friend. And I think that is really great for her and good for them too. And they really enjoy Sophie's company too. Caregiving really is about making the quality of life for that person better. That's why any family and friends that add to that make a huge difference. Family and friends can help with emotional support and add a lot to making life seem rich and full.
Just try to make life go on like it was every day. Like tomorrow is there. It helps that other person dream, even if you know that there is no dreaming. You can't stop life because something happened.
When people come over and make her house feel full and lively and everybody's eating and talking, I think that makes her forget a little bit what she's going through, and there's just a nice feeling of sharing in that time. I think that makes life more worth living.
All right, here's the guest honor.
She has very good friends who have consistently come over, people who treat her like she's there. And no matter what state she's in, they treat her like Sophie. And I think that makes her feel more normal and happy. Even if the situation isn't perfect, you can still have great moments. And you're involved in her life. If you want to maintain your relationships with people, you have to adapt with them and be there. Otherwise, you lose them before they're gone.
I am still the same person inside.
What's that? You want to talk? Okay. B-E-L-A. 6 months after Sophie's voice lessons, her voice failed her completely. For the next 2 years, her only way of communicating all of her thoughts, feelings, and needs was with a letterboard or a computer.
Think of all my useless humor you and Eric are missing.
Sophie wrote that being unable to talk was the hardest part of having MSA. By mid-2003, Sophie had lost most of her physical abilities. She could no longer walk, feed herself, use her computer, or speak. And her ability to eat and swallow had also become more difficult. It hurts to see somebody you love slipping away. You wish you could stop it, and you can't.
It really hurts when people speak about the future, because I know that I have none. We have cried a lot together. I hold her and we both cry, and I tell her, I want to see you around. Your family wants to see you around, and then you want to see your son maybe graduate, maybe do this, maybe do that. You never know how long it will be. Maybe you'll be able to see something. And that's why you're trying to hold on. Well, I too do not know what will happen in my life. I know what will not happen. I probably will not see my son graduate from high school. I will never know his wife or hold their child in my arms.
Your life is yours to build as you choose. I hope it will be a good life. And now, I would like to present the class of 2003.
J, K, L, I.
L. Start over. Okay. There were times when that letterboard would drive us crazy. But now we'd give anything to be able to go back and use it again. A dramatic shift happened in Sophie's condition. She was having trouble with choking and got liquid into her lungs, which caused aspiration pneumonia. While she was still recuperating from the pneumonia, it was suggested she get a feeding tube surgically inserted directly into her stomach to prevent future choking and to maintain her nutrition and fluid balance. After the feeding tube was put in, she was not responsive. Something neurologically happened. We don't know why. The doctor said she was probably going to die in the hospital. When Sophie was able to communicate a little bit with us, she made it clear that she wanted to go home. We pretty much expected the worst. She had a faraway look in her eyes and seemed like she was letting go. That was now almost 2 years ago. Her alertness has gotten a little better since then, but still not the way it was. She can't point to spell the words out anymore. Now we ask a question and have her move her finger. We ask yes or no, multiple choice, or go through the alphabet and she'll point when I get to the letter. That's the end of her voice. Her voice as we are able to hear it. When you can't speak, you want to so badly.
and you want to hear it from that person so badly. At every stage of Sophie's disease, she was determined to use the time she had. It will be part of Sophie's legacy that she did what she could, when she could. While she could still walk, she traveled to Greece with her mother and sister. While she could still type, she wrote about her life for her family. And she wrote a letter to her son, Adam, for him to read after she dies. She sent countless emails of support and advice to others with MSA. And she wrote friends, family, and Congress to increase MSA awareness and research funding. She participated in a landmark research study funded by Congress that seeks to identify the risk factors and causes of MSA. Her quarterly exams at the Parkinson's Institute constitute a complete case study that will help researchers define the clinical signs and symptoms of MSA, vital to the proper diagnosis of the disease. Sophie also arranged to have her brain donated to MSA research to help make sure that her search for a cure will continue after she is gone. And she expressed her last wishes in writing. As Sophie was losing her voice, she wrote one last short story in which statues can speak.
The statues in my garden, a late night story of fantasy by Sophie Dome. Hey Rosa, what you always staring at out that window? Aren't your kids all grown up now? And hasn't Mario passed on? Dorothy, psst, Dot, you wake yet? Dorothy was still as beautiful as the statue she had become. Dorothy, wake up. I hear the kids coming. Sophie skipped through the garden. She was so full of life. They were going to spend the day jumping rope and lying back, just watching the clouds roll by. Unfortunately, Sophie would not be able to play today. Or like the statues in her garden, she had turned to stone.